Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. My name's Stephen Galpin and this is the programme where you can have all your property related questions answered by our team of experts. Joining me by Zoom is John Howard, property developer, author, public speaker and owner of estate agents in the east of England there. Hello John, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you Steve. Great to be back, great talking to you. I wish I was in person.
Right, we too. And joining John is Trevor Leggett, founder of Leggett Immobilier, French real estate agents and property advisors. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, Steve.
Good to have you with us. John, we're going to start off with you.
Yes.
The Chancellor has apparently decided not to continue with the lower end stamp duty holiday. Do the panel think this will call a halt to what is at the moment a fairly strong market? And what would the panel do to keep the market strong if he does cut this concession out?
That is a great question that one of the viewers has emailed in to you there, Stephen. Absolutely. I think obviously I'm biased because I've probably got £25 million worth of property to sell next year on the open market. So I'm biased and obviously I want the stamp duty to continue another 6 months. In fact, I've just signed a petition that's going to the government suggesting that it carries on another 6 months. But at the moment, Russia is holding firm and doesn't look like they're going to agree to that. They're going to finish it on the 31st of March, which means similar, as we said before on another show, similar to the 1988, 1989 when they got rid of double tax relief, and all three of us remember that day, I think. It caused a complete hiatus, and then straight afterwards there was a real slump and we went into the 1990 recession, property recession. So that they must be concerned about that. Obviously he's got a lot of problems, and if anything I think they brought the stamp duty holiday in too soon. I would have started it from January for a year, not before then, because actually we're all doing quite well when we came back from the lockdown. You know, my sales and my developments were quite good and my estate agencies were good. So I don't think he needed to do it. I think they panicked a little bit. And the reason they wanted to do it was because they know that the people spend 5% on average. The value of their home, they spend 5% in the first year spending money on carpets, kitchens, furniture, whatever. And that's what drives the economy. And he's got to be very careful because this could kill off the economy as soon as we come out of the holiday period, the stamp duty holiday period. It could really cause a problem to the economy.
Well, John, that's what they announced they're thinking of doing. So what would you do to keep the market buoyant or at least active?
Well, if anything, I would if they're going to insist on getting rid of the holiday period, I would taper it down so it's not quite as attractive as from March, say, till September, to make it so it's not a cliff edge. That's one of the things I would do. But you can argue it's a penalty, this tax. It's a penal tax on people moving around the country. And of course, the government are going to want people to move around the country because there'll be jobs up in Newcastle that there aren't in London and so on. And people can't move if they're paying a lot of stamp duty on the homes they buy. So, you know, I think it's a very backward step, and I think they really need to look into it. And certainly I've spoken, obviously I'm close to my MP here in Ipswich because I helped appoint him. But I've spoken to him on 2 occasions now to speak to Russia on our behalf and try and get some sense into them.
But do you really think that the negation of that duty relief will bring things to a pretty quick crunch?
Well, history tells you it will do, Stephen. If you look at, like I said, 1989 and the double tax relief when that was taken off. So, you know, when anyone gives a date when something finishes, there's a massive panic before that, which then creates a vacancy afterwards. You know, and that's exactly what could happen, and it does concern me greatly.
Okay, Trevor, what do you think?
I think you've got a point, but I don't think it's just about stamp duty. I think also interest rates are a major, and more than anything, not just interest rates, but the loan to value or mortgages from banks is going to be probably the most critical aspect of all, because you know, when banks and building societies start to lose confidence in the market at the moment. It's strong and confident, and it can go very quickly the other way, where they start to lend 90, 80, 70, 60% loan to value, which is a far bigger problem because obviously,
no, I agree with that. Yeah.
You know, and at the moment we've already seen signs that banks are asking for bigger deposits.
Yeah.
And that tendency may continue through 2021, I feel.
I'm really not sure that you know, high loan to value levels are that dangerous, really. It wasn't us that caused the problem in 2008, was it, John? It was the American market, really, the subprime market.
No, it wasn't, Stephen. And of course, it's all about confidence, isn't it? If the market's got confidence. But interestingly, I think the government, well, they're certainly talking about it. I know they haven't done much about it for the last 2 months, but they were talking about underwriting a 95% mortgage, if you remember, a few months ago.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're going to continue with that, and it wasn't just for first-time buyers, because they know that people that buy their own home nearly all vote Tory. They know that because they're aspirational and they're forward-thinking. They want to get on in life, and that's the market they want to capture. That is the market they want to capture. And the best way of capturing it
is that the secret, then, John?
Allowing people to buy their own home.
Is that the secret, John? You vote Tory and you get on in life.
When you canvass for the Tory party, the big areas that vote Tory are the new estates, the new houses.
No, you're right.
They're the ones that vote Tory.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you for that, John. Trevor, your question. With our exit from Europe, this is something quite close to home for you, because I know you're enjoying your cars. I guess we'll no longer be able to just simply swap our UK driving licences for French ones. As and when we become residents. Does the panel know how the new regulations will work?
Yeah, you'll still be able to swap them. You can, and you're literally, the problem's always been, to be quite honest with you, is that most people have wanted to hang on to their UK licences because they didn't get any points.
Right. Okay.
That was the only reason why they didn't change them voluntarily. Right. The French have actually shown now that because we left the EU, they're making a point of making this freedom for British citizens is going to be a lot stricter. You're not going to be as free as you were. And there is an element, of course, and you can blame them, that we've walked out on them, so therefore, you know, you should pay a price for it. And the prefecture have been sending little letters out to people to say you've got to change your driving licence for a French one within the next 6 months, or you can no longer drive on French roads if you're a resident, which is fair enough. The law has always been such.
Right.
But it was one of those things they just ignored and let it get on.
It was just fairly lax.
So people would just sort of drive around on their British driving licence until they got a speeding fine or they got a driving offence. And then obviously when they went to court, they would be told to change their licence or before they went to court so that they could put the points on their licence. Because you can't put points cross-border.
No.
But as anyone who's been speeding in France in the last 18 months will know, they now send the fines back to the UK and they will chase them persistently.
Good.
Until you pay.
Jolly good too. So will it affect people when they go to France to live, often want to hang on to their UK car, don't they?
Well, they can do that, but they just have to register it in France.
Right. So is that a change?
No, exactly the same procedure it's always been. There will be a dédouanement, so there'll be like a tax on the way in, but there's always been what they call a quitus fiscale. You had to prove what you'd paid for it and prove that the tax had been paid. Right. On a new car, obviously the VAT used to, if you were buying with a company, you'd pay the VAT, but you'd pay the VAT and then claim it back. There's, to be honest, a waste of time. You're better off buying a car in France anyway. The steering wheel's on the right way. What on earth would you want to take a right-hand drive car to a country with the steering wheel on the wrong side?
Because I think people are sentimental.
No, well, they keep the old one, put it in the garage, register it on French plates and just leave it there.
Okay. John, anything to add to that?
Well, no, I'm not surprised with what Trevor said, are you?
No.
Well, I mean, you know, that's the way it's going, so.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the transition actually won't mean that much, and I'm quite sure that the French government don't want in any way to discourage investment over there. I'm sure. So
they're annoyed with the government, not with the British people.
Good. Yeah, that's great. Well, on that good news, we'll go to our break. So join me again after the break with John Howard and Trevor Leggett. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin and with me are John Howard and Trevor Leggett. So, John, your second question. I've recently been made redundant and I'm considering going into property development in a modest way. However, the enormous amount of punitive costs like 106 requirements, obligations re social housing provision, etc. are beginning to put me off. And I wonder how many others too. I realise that whilst it is the developer who initially bears these costs, eventually it's just passed on to the buyers, calculated into their purchase price. Is this not just having a negative effect on the provision of new homes? What do you think?
Well, congratulations for going into the world of property developing and investing. It's a great world to be in. It can be great fun and it can be very lucrative. But you can also lose your shirt. You can lose your money. So you've got to be super careful. And to be talking about 106 contributions and so on at this point, when you're going into it in a modest fashion, seems a bit ambitious to me anyway. I wouldn't be worrying about that at the moment. I would be worrying about getting some decent, proper education, not paying a fortune for it. The best thing you can do is get on and buy a property. Decide what you want to do. Get on and get cracking, get your finance organised, get your solicitors organised and get on and look at a property you want to buy that you can make some money on. John, because until you do that, it's like driving a car. Mm-hmm. The first time you drive a car without L plates on, you learn more about you and the car than you do all those times when you've got your parents sat next to you. So get on with it, take some education, learn as much as you can, and start off on a modest way. And remember, I've got 3 golden rules. If you've just bought the property, you should be able to sell it at a profit without doing anything to it, because you should be buying below market value. The second thing you should be able to do is to refurbish it and sell it at a good profit. And the third thing you should be able to do is refurbish it, let it, refinance it and move on. If you can't do all 3 of those, I would question whether you should be buying the deal in the first place. Well, there's good educators and there's poor educators. But the one thing is, if you're paying a lot of money for the education, you must be wary. There's a lots of information on YouTube and so on from a number of educators. It's all free. That's where I would start. See who you trust, see who you enjoy listening to, and take it from there. But the one question you must always ask them when you get to talk to these people is, how many deals have they done? What have they achieved in their career? If they can't tell you they've done very much, and by the way, then check it that it's true, then I wouldn't be using them in the first place. When I would always work out what you can afford to buy by the fact of your deposit. So if you've got, say, 40,000 deposit to put down, it means you can probably buy a property for 100,000 because you get a 60-70% loan to value. So that's the basics. And I would talk to mortgage brokers, find one that you enjoy speaking to and you can trust, and get them involved in what you're doing. The other thing you can do, and the one thing we're doing, are joint ventures with other people. So we invest with other people, and you can certainly find a partner at all these property clubs that are around the country at the moment going on. Now online at the moment, I know, but you can still meet a lot of people. It's quite a friendly community, and I would really get involved. It's all about who you know in property, because they're the one with the contacts. So get to know as many people, explain what you want to do, be open, and see how far it gets you.
Trevor, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as you say, if you don't understand buildings, and one of the big problems is you don't know what you're looking at. So if you don't know what you're looking at, don't be afraid to actually put a bit of legwork in and getting somebody who does know what they're looking at to look at it. Most amateur property developers, I've made mistakes, and I'm sure John has as well, where you buy something, you don't look at it clearly, and you think that's roughly all right, and you miss some expensive errors that you should have spotted because you were a little bit hasty. Basically the thing will look right. I mean, looking at a roof, I can tell now, after 30, 40 years of messing around buying and selling buildings, that I can pretty get a good idea of the state of the thing. I can look at a boiler and know how old it is. I can look at the state of the floors. I can tell at a glance what the windows and doors look like. I don't, because that's experience, but you're not going to gain that experience in 5 minutes. So I would say to get your builders in and get the people that you work with, but get 2 quotes from everybody. It doesn't take you long to get a couple of quotes. Don't just get 1 quote from people for one thing, get a couple for each. Get 2 or 3 and get them to give you a written quote, and then you start to understand what things should cost, and it makes it easier.
I think the other thing is we have to look at the consequence of timing. Timing can add a lot of cost if it goes wrong. People very rarely think of this.
Well, I still make mistakes now, and I've made one recently, I'm not going to say, but where I left something for somebody to get on with it, thinking, well, they can't mess that up. And my God, did they mess it up. And it was an expensive mess up. And even at my age, after all that experience, I went and got caught in my own trap. It happens, I'm sure it happens to you, John, as well.
Yeah.
Trevor, we're going to move on to your second question now. Is it correct that French real estate laws are not actually controlled by Europe, but internally in France? Presuming this is correct, I assume that there will be very little change in property purchasing procedures. However, I'm not so sure about purchase taxes and VAT levels, perhaps for foreigners. Do the panel have any guidance and considerations I should take on board? And finally, what's the panel's view of the French property market for 2021?
Well, 2021, I think that we haven't seen a lot of inflation in prices, but we've seen a lot of property moving that have been hanging around for a long time. The high end of the market in rural areas, for example, had been stuck for a long, long time, and things weren't moving. This year, they've gone mainly to French buyers, moving out of cities, change of lifestyle. So the bigger sort of 500, 600, 700,000 properties have been going, which are quite big for rural France. That gives you quite a decent house. Your average house is between 250,000, but you get a hell of a lot of difference when you move into the 600,000, 700,000, and those things weren't going anywhere. They're hard to find in some areas now. I never thought I'd see the day that chateaus and big manors, the big manor houses and that sort of thing, were starting to get thin on the ground. They're getting very thin on the ground. Right. That type of property this year has just gone. And we're struggling to find as much of it as we'd like to.
And in terms of procedure, is much changing?
Absolutely nothing. The only thing, there's nothing on the horizon either to change. Stamp duty staying exactly where it is, the procedure's the same. Inheritance taxes are the same. No, nothing new. Okay. He's basically, Macron has got something that's working, and you're not going to mess with something when it's working.
No. So the viewer was right to assume that French real estate laws are controlled by France and not by the wider European Union.
Oh, it's nothing to do with Europe.
Okay.
No, absolutely nothing to do.
Good. Okay, Trevor, I'm going to say thank you very much. And gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. So from Trevor Leggett, John Howard, thank you both very much indeed for your input to today's programme. I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me again next time on Property Question Time.